Welcome to today's Knowledge webinar, Creating and Managing Drawings in Vectorworks. Discover the many tools and techniques that work together to create and manage drawings in Vectorworks 2020. And we're talking of techniques that are the bread and butter of your workflow, like save views, viewports, multiple view panes, controlling visibilities on drawings, and managing viewports and classes. Today's webinar presenter, if you don't already know him, is Jonathan Pickup, an architect trained in New Zealand and in the UK with more than 30 years of experience. He has been writing and producing Vectorworks manuals and providing customer support for more than 15 years. His company, ArchonCAD, is the premier provider of third-party manuals and training resources for Vectorworks. Check it out, archoncad.com. And he also runs the Vectorworks online user group and provides its main direction. And let me introduce Novaj. Novaj is changing the way designers purchase 3D software. We offer more choices, more freedom, best advice, faster service, and no headaches. Check us out at novaj.com. And this is the product page for Vectorworks, the entire Vectorworks product line that we carry. And you can always find us on social media and get the latest and the greatest new one promos and new releases. I don't want to bore you any longer. I just will share Jonathan's screen in a second so he can take over and get the show started.
Thank you very much, Barbara. So those of you that have got the handout, you may have noticed here it is here. I've got the table of contents here at the moment. So the idea is that I've gone back to making these every month. This is the first of them. And so the idea is I just wanted to give you an introduction to what layers and classes are, what design layers are, so that when I talk about saved views, we actually understand the sort of basic concepts of those things. I put a link there to the movies that I've got, so that should work really well. I'm just going to put that onto the other screen, and I'm going to go back to Vectorworks. So I'm going to start with looking at saved views. Now, I hope everybody uses layers and classes. They work together. Layers are where things are, and classes are what things are. So, for example, if it's a toilet and it's on the second floor of the building, second floor is the layer that it is in, and the toilet is the type of object. So I tend to structure my drawings so that I have a large number of classes. Here's my list of classes. You can see there's kind of a lot. Sometimes because I've imported information from other people, and sometimes because I've created them. But I think I have ended up with hundreds of classes in this particular file. And so you'll also notice that this particular project that I've got on the screen, I've actually got it rotated so that north is straight up the page. So I've rotated my project so I've got true north straight up. I mean, whenever I do a solar study, whenever I get information from a surveyor, it's all linked together, and it makes it very easy for me to get the information to line up. However, it makes it very tricky when I come to draw, because you'll notice that because my building's rotated, if I went to just my building, so let's just go active only layer, it's just not kind of easy to work with. It's just rotated. So how can we get around that, and how can we make this work really well? So first of all, I'm going to turn my view, and I want to see my building grid. So I tend to draw a building grid because it helps me with my construction drawings. But there's a button up here for rotating the plan. So if I click there and then click there, it will rotate my grid. So there it is. So now my grid is orthogonal. This is really handy because it means from now on I can actually draw my project orthogonal, and I don't have to worry about trying to use design layer links or design layer viewports to link my plans of my house to my site model. You will find that if you rotate all your layers and set your layers and structure your file with I'll just show you my design layers. I've actually set all of my layers to their true elevation from sea level. And this is quite handy because it means that if I need to do site modifiers, I can use my design layers as part of my site modifier structure. It can be really handy for that point of view. However, rotating my view and dragging my view each time is actually a real pain, because if I look at my floor plan, I actually want it to be rotated like this when I'm drawing. So this is my Save Views button up here. And I can save a view. And I've already got one called Rotated Grid. So Rotated Grid. And because I've already got one, it's going to ask me if I want to rename it. Now, because I just want to save the rotation of the grid, I'm going to save the view orientation, I'm going to save the zoom, I'm going to turn all the rest of this off. So all the Save View is going to save is just my rotation and my pan. In other words, where I'm looking on the page. So in other words, I've zoomed into my plan. Yes, and I'm going to overwrite the old one. So that is actually a technique that you can modify or update your viewports, but I'm going to show you other ways anyway. So if we go back to a top plane view, we rotate our view, we can now come up here to our save view and we can say rotate a grid, and it's that quick to make the changes. Now the other thing that you might notice is I might want to be doing something that relates to, for example, my framing plan, for example, where I want to annotate or I want to dimension the building, I want to dimension all the wood doors and windows and so on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn all of my classes on. Now I don't think they're all turned on at the moment, so I'm going to use the Alt or the Option key, click on the visible column, you'll see they all turn on. One of the tricks I use to create my saved views is to use my visibility tool, which is this one here. Because I can click on an object and it will hide that visibility, particularly if I've got this mode here turned on, which is the hide. So I don't want to see those. I don't want to see my electrical. I don't want to see my furniture. I don't want to see that stuff. Do I want to see those notes? Yes, maybe. I don't want to see this outside furniture. I don't want to see that. Oh, no, I don't want to see that. I don't know what that straight line is. It shouldn't really be there. Let's get rid of that too. And there's a guide in here which I can't get rid of because it's inside a class. So now that I've got that set up the way that I want, I can now save that as a view. So let's go Save View, and this is my ground floor. I know some people call this level 1, so it's my ground floor framing view. So do I want to save the page? Yes. Save the page like no. I don't want to say yes. I want to save that. I want to save that. So here I can choose my layer options. Do I want to see the other layers? Not for this particular thing. Maybe I do. Let's try. We'll turn that on. Only this time what we'll do is we'll choose which layers we want to see. We'll click on this button, and we'll just go through. And I'm going to use the Alt click again. I want to see that and my slab. What about my classes? Which classes do I want to see? Well, they're all turned on except for the ones that I've already clicked on to make invisible. So that's cool. I know the guides. I didn't want to see guides today. So let's just hit the letter G on my keyboard to get started. And it should drag me down to all the G's. And then I should find guides more easily. I can turn the guides off. I've also set my active class to none. So when I run the save view, so a save view, take a step back. The idea of a save view is it will save the view orientation, it'll save the layers and classes you've turned on, save the layer and classes you've turned off, save the active layer, the active class. It just sets a view. Now some people seem to think that a save view is like a snapshot in time. In other words, if I delete a door and then bring back a save view, it'll put that door back in. It's not the way that it works. So a saved view only saves the view options, not the drawn information. So it never saves the data, never saves the plans, never saves the site model or anything like that. It doesn't work on the data in the drawing, just the way you look at it, or just the view. Why do I set none as my saved view? Well, I've had a client who set a save view where I think it was electrical was turned off. And then she drew an elevation, but she had a save view that turned electrical on, and she kept recalling it, and it would reset the active class to electrical. So she'd draw her elevations old school, 2D, and then she would use her save view to call her elevations up, and the elevations vanished. She couldn't understand it. So then she went back, drew her elevations again. She did it about 3 times. And the problem was that her active class kept bringing up a class that she didn't want to draw things on. So my answer is make sure you set that to none, because that way you won't accidentally be drawing all your information on the wrong class. Oh yeah, by the way, when I told her to turn all the classes on, there was 3 elevations all on top of each other. That was untidy. Okay, so that's my idea for the save view. So what we can do now, if I go back to ground floor framing view, you can see it's brought through my ground floor. So it's brought through my slab. You can see my plumbing and drainage is there. And I've got some of these other references which I might want to get rid of, and there's ways I can take care of that. So first of all, do we have any questions? Still questions about the Royals? No questions about that? That's fantastic. So how do we edit a save view once we've created it? So I'm going to look for something on here. So let's just go to our layer, go to our slab. I want to find out what this information here is. There is that information, and it's on wall foundation. So let's say, for example, I want to hide wall foundation. I also want to hide this information here, these bits. So what do? We can come up here and choose Edit View. That'll open our Organization dialog box. So it's the same as clicking on this button here. Brings up Save Views. And then we could select a view and click on Edit, or we could double click on it. Or the quickest way is probably to remember that your saved views are also in your navigation palette. So for example, here I can right click and I can go edit. That will open the dialog box. If I just want to change the name, I can just directly click on it here, and I can change the name, and I can call that ground floor framing saved view. So I can rename it instantly there, but to edit the structure of it, I need to right click and choose edit. That's my ground floor framing. So here I need to get rid of services. So services electrical we don't want to see stormwater, don't want to see soil pipes. Now there's no preview button here, so I can't preview it to see if I've done the right thing, but I can double click here and rerun that. And let's edit that, and it was wall foundation, I think. Where's wall foundation? There. Let's do that. Okay, and cool. So I got rid of that. So that works, I think, pretty well, getting it to do those things. Okay, so what's next? Let's have a look at my manual. So saved view, editing saved views. Yeah, so I think I've done editing saved views as well. So let's talk about creating drawings, sheet layers, and viewports. Now I've got a series of drawings here already set up. Those are my sheet layers. They're all ready to go. And if I click here, I can go and have a look at some of them. Here's one here. And I think my plumbing drawing is missing. Cool. So I need to create my plumbing drawing. So if I go back to my design layer, floor 1, I need to turn on my plumbing, so I need to find my services. Now I'm just using the class filtering here, so I can filter what I'm looking at just by typing in a search. I don't have to search for the entire word, just the first 3 or 4 characters will be enough. So I've got my stormwater on. I don't want to see my framing, so I'm going to use my visibility tool again, so I don't need those dimensions. I don't want to see those notes. And I think that's everything. So I'm going to create my viewport. So start with a rectangle. If I'm in a 3D view, don't forget you've got to set your rectangle to be on the screen plane if you're in a front view. Actually, while we go, so someone's asked a question, how come there is no filter search in class? There is, I just haven't used it. So I could use a filter, I just haven't got a filter that suits structural. Sorry, a filter that suits services. I've got one that suits structural, and I've got one that suits details, and I'll come back to that if I need to talk about that. So all classes, but I just do that. Oh, in the save view, I don't know. I'm sorry, it's just not there. So where were we? Making a viewport. View on the menu bar. Let's create a viewport. Viewport may be used. Yes. I normally tick this, always do it, and I go yes. I've just left it on so you guys can see it. So this is my plumbing and drainage. Plumbing and drainage plan. So I'll copy that because I'm a bit lazy with writing this out again. So here's my plumbing and drainage. Let's paste that there, and I'll call that plumbing and drainage plan. What layers do we want to see? Those two, thanks very much, that's good. What classes do we want to see? Well, I think I've turned them all on, so I'll just accept that. I want this to be 1 to 50 scale, and I'm going to click OK. And there it is. Now it should have used my viewport. It should have used my crop object. It didn't. And I wonder if there's an error going on. So let's just edit my crop. No, there's no crop there. I'm sure I told it to use my object. So that's my viewport crop now. And I'll just edit this tag as well. So edit my drawing label and pull that up to there. So it's off my page. If you do get your viewports off your page, one of my tricks used to be to set my box position to the middle and then make that a 0 and that a 0, and it will just put my viewport back in the middle, which I thought was kind of an easy way to do it. So there's my plumbing and drainage. Now, if I needed to create a plumbing and drainage plan or a plumbing and drainage saved view.
Jonathan, your audio is off. We cannot hear you.
Oh dear.
So hold on a second, and if you can jiggle with the audio, that'd be great. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Oh. Okay. Built-in microphone. It's lost my USB drive. Can you hear me now? Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh,
for some
I don't
reason.
know why, but
it was just me.
The USB
it was
plug
just
came
me.
out.
Everybody else could hear you.
Oh. Okay.
So sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. There was nothing wrong. All right. Sorry, Barbara. Where was I? I want to make a saved view. So one of the other tricks I use in Vectorworks is when I've got something, because I need to fix these drawings. Let's say something like this. If I want to create a saved view which looks like this, one of the things I do is I go Edit Design Layer. There it is there. And then I'll make a saved view from that. So this is my roof framing. Oh, I can't spell. Framing, saved view. Save view, save page location, save the layers, yes, and then OK to that. That way, I should be able to find my save view over here. There should be a roof framing save view. I can double click, takes me back to my design layer, and I can do all my drawings, and I can work that way. So that's one of the things I do. So let me just have a look here. I've got my ground floor framing plan. So I've set these up already with mistakes. So we've looked at, I haven't done a section view, have I? Let's do a section viewport. So onto a section viewport, view on the menu bar, create section viewport. Now I'm just doing a very quick introduction to design layers and viewports, sheet layers and viewports, I mean. But if you really want to have a lot more information, I've given you some links on that handout that Barbara's giving you with some links to my more detailed things. So let's create a section. I've got a viewport selected. I'm going to cut through my section, double click, and I'm going to put that on my long section. And I'm going to call it long section as well. Long section, just leave all of that. I don't want to spend too much time on sections. There's so much we can do on sections. And here on sections, I can also modify the classes or the layers that I'm seeing. So I might want to turn all of those on. I might want to see my site model as well, and then update that, and I'll see the entire project. So back to, I want to have a look at my framing plan. So it's now time to talk about how do we manage these once we've got them. Because I've got this drawing, and I'm actually going to activate, say, multiple view panes. I'm going to come back to this and talk about multiple view panes. But I've got here a floor plan. Here I've got my framing plan. And this one I want to see my first floor framing plan. And this one's got my general plan. So what I've ended up with is a situation where I've got electrical here that I don't want to see. I've got electrical here that I don't want to see. It's also turned up here where I don't want to see it, but it hasn't shown up here where I do want to see it. So there's got to be an easy way, because most people, when I talk to them, they want to click on the classes button here, they want to scroll through and they want to find what they're looking for. There's got to be a quicker way. So a lot of us know this organization dialog box as it is. We've got all our classes, hundreds of them. I can filter them if I want to. But how do I make sure that some are turned on particular viewports and not others? I don't know if any of you use this button up here, the Visibilities button. Once you click on it, your view of your organization dialog box changes dramatically. So what I want to do now is I want to search for my electrical. There it is. So I got 3 electrical classes that I need to manage. And here are viewports. So there's a viewport called First Floor Framing Plan, which currently has see the eyeball? That means that in this particular viewport, those 3 classes are visible. They should really be visible in that viewport. They shouldn't be there, they should be here. They shouldn't be there, they should be there. And I have plumbing and drainage, they shouldn't be there. Now there is also a framing view, this first floor framing plan. First floor framing, I think that's the one I've done. Floor framing, cool. I think I've done them all. In order to check, I'm going to click OK. Now, I can also use this to manage saved views. So over here, I've got saved view names. So in my framing plan, I shouldn't see any electrical, for example. So I can manage all my viewports and all my saved views directly from here, and I can change all of my drawings really quickly. So let's OK that. And electrical's now gone from there, it's gone from there, it's gone from there, and it's turned up here. So I've changed 4 drawings really quickly. And I think that is a really cool trick, that ability to change those drawings so quickly. Are there any questions about that? Now, there's a lot of questions here. Yeah, someone said the links and the handouts don't work. Lost sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide some of these. Are there any other questions I need to answer? So I hope you like that trick with the visibilities. Okay, so I can't see, Barbara, I don't know if you can see any questions that I need to answer.
No, I think you did. I think so far.
Somebody said there was one question, I think I've just closed it, that was asked about confirmation of taking the webinar. You need to take care of that at the end, I think. Okay, so let me just have a look. So that was managing our drawings. How are we getting on for time? So let's go back to my plumbing and drainage, which I think is here. So here I've got a problem with my plumbing and drainage in that I've got my, so I've actually got everything on the right layers. But you might notice, Barbara, just through here, my soil pipe disappears, it vanishes, and it vanishes here. And you can't actually see all of my plumbing and drainage because my slab layer is below my floor layer. So I can also manage that. So I'm going to drag my slab layer higher up. And it's turned some things off that I didn't want to see. Let's just use my visibility and we'll turn off the slab. Sweet. So you can use your visibility tool in your viewports as well if you get them mucked up. So now you can see what I've got is my plumbing and drainage is now higher up than my toilets and my showers and things. So now they're more visible. So this is a way of restructuring or reordering your design layers in the viewport, it doesn't affect the design layers in the original file. Oh, there is a comment that I forgot to go through. Let's go back to our, so Dennis was pointing out that if we, let's go back to electrical. So Dennis noticed that I've got nice, good names for these viewports. First floor framing, first floor ground, foundation plan, that kind of thing. We don't need electrical there. You're quite right, Dennis. I should have mentioned this. I apologize. You do need to have good names for your viewports. So, Dennis, here you can see what it looks like when you don't have them, give them good names. How do you manage those? I have no idea what they are. I find that impossible. But these ones, I know exactly what they are. I know exactly what they relate to, and it makes it very easy for me to manage the classes in these particular viewports. I'm afraid my trick falls to pieces completely at this point. I wouldn't have a clue where they are or what they're doing, so I can't use my trick with those. But one of the things you'll notice, Dennis, when I tell you how to make a viewport, I always tell you to give it a good name, a name that makes sense. So please do that. How are we getting on for time? So I think we've covered everything, haven't we, Barbara? Just about. Let me just bring up my website just to check. So this is my website.
Sure.
This is my knowledge base, creating and managing drawings. I just need to refresh my memory. Say view, yeah. We've created viewports. We've managed layers and classes in a viewport. Okay, so we're up to multiple view panes. Okay, multiple view panes. Let's create a brand new blank file. And I'm going to talk about this concept of multiple view panes. So Vectorworks has a thing, there's a button just here, multiple view panes. When you click on it, you get the ability to see the same file from different points of view. So for example, here I could create a rectangle. I could extrude that rectangle, and you can see it extrudes in all the other views. Now I can draw from one view to another, so I can start drawing in that view, and I can finish in this view, or I can finish in this view if I want. So it's really cool, this ability to draw from one view to another. You can right-click and you can make a floating view pane out of that one, so you can actually drag that one off and take it to another screen. And you can also draw from there to there if you want, so you can draw from one view to another. They're really super cool, I reckon, these multiple view panes. I've used them just a second ago, and I'm going to come back and talk about how I did it that way. This button here, this little lozenge, you right-click and you enable multiple view panes. Use the same visibilities in all layers. That means that if you turn layers and classes off in one viewport, they'll turn off in all of them. You can split vertically, you can split horizontally, you can close. We've done the create floating one. You can close and you can close and close, close and split horizontally. This is how I tend to work. So what I tend to do is I tend to have a view here, but my main working area tends to be here. Now, if I'm in a top plane view here, I can't draw from one top plane to a 3D view. But if this was a 3D view from another direction, I can certainly draw from here across to one of these other views. So that can work quite well. If I go back to this file here, let's go back to a design layer. And we'll reset our save view, rotate a grid, and turn on our multiple view panes, which is the letter M, M for Mary. So here we're going to go to a floor plan. So that's floor one, and I'm going to close that one, and split this one. And then you can move to this little bar between them, and you can move the bar up and down and change the relationship between those. So let's say, for example, I was doing my plumbing and drainage plan. So we're going to rotate a grid there. And I know that I want my plumbing and drainage to go from here through to here. And I just find that kind of handy to be able to do that so that you can see the view, you can zoom into one area here, particularly useful on very large projects where you've got something at this end of the building, you want to zoom in, and then you want this to zoom in and connect to something at this end of the building. Very handy for that kind of work. I like to have my multiple view panes in this orientation, the main drawing window and the two other ones. And if we go back to my template file, so this is my own template file that I've created. When I hit the M key, you'll see that it changes, and I've got my main area and my two other ones. And when you set these up, so you set them up, you get the orientation you want, you get the position of these parts that you want, you can then turn it off again with the M key, then save your template. So if you save that as your template, then every time you use this project or you start a project from this template, the save views will be the way you want. If you start from a Vectorworks blank file, then you'll end up, when you go to multiple view panes, you'll end up with the one that I showed you to start with, the 4, which I don't really enjoy so much. They're for you to set up to help you do your drawing. One of the things I quite like is when you set up a 3D view. So for example, you can set up a 3D view of your project. Let's go here, floor 1. So there's my project. So let's say, for example, I wanted to modify the roof, or I wanted to modify a window. This has actually got some class I want to hide. There we are. So let's say, for example, you want to see what the overall effect of your changes are on the elevation of the building. So we grab hold of a window. I think it's a window object, and we drag that along, and we can see the changes here. And drag this one along, or what happens if we remove it? What does that do to my elevation? And so I just think this is a really handy way, this multiple view panes is a really handy way of having the overall of your project and seeing what happens as you do different things to it. So if I delete that window, what happens if I put it back? You know, that kind of thing. So I think multiple view panes have got a lot of mileage. I think they're a fantastic technique. I don't use them all the time, but there are times like this where I do turn them on, where I really, really need them, and they're really powerful. I quite often use them in conjunction with the framing, things like doing my floor plan. So I'll be making modifications, and I want to see what it looks like on the drawing. So I might be adding text, I might be adding notes. I want to see what they look like in the viewport when they arrive. So I can do both of those things. I think, Barbara, that's all I wanted to cover. Let me just check. Managing multiple view panes, yeah, I've done that. I've done the managing layers and classes in a viewport. So I guess it's time I talked about me a little bit, Barbara.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's enjoyed this. So this is my visual knowledge base. So what I've done is I've taken all of the movies that I've made and I've collected them together and I've put them in a system that makes it easy. So this month I made this for my subscribers, the creating and managing drawings. I gave them the full manual, which is this one here, which they can click on, and it has all the layers and classes, and it's the whole thing. All the links work in that one. I also made all the movies for them. So Tali, these are all here for you. So enjoy it. So it's set up in a way that makes it real easy to scroll through. You want to look at multiple view panes, it just scrolls down to that area, and they're all there. And this month we went through them in the active workshops. So those people that are subscribers, they get access to webinars like this, which are actually interactive. I actually listen to you, and I turn your microphones on so you can talk to me. And we go through topics like we've been through today, and I record those and post them online for my subscribers. So that's it from me, Barbara. And it's
there's a last question that came in. Would you mind taking it? Is there a way to transfer a viewport or save view from an existing file to another file?
Oh, okay. Well, that does remind me of one thing I forgot to cover. So I've shown you that you can get saved views from here. And I've shown you that you can get saved views from here. But what I haven't shown you is that you can get saved views from here as well. So saved views actually sit in a little floating palette. So you can activate them, which is really a really handy way to use them for people who like these little floating palettes. Now, I'm not sure you can copy them because I haven't tried it, but what I am going to try is I'm going to go to data tag test file. I'm going to look for saved views, and I'm going to try to import that into my current file. And there's your answer. It contains a saved view, so it cannot be imported into a different document. So I'm sorry, you can't import them into a different document.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I also want to remind everyone that this session is being recorded, will be recorded, and uploaded later today on YouTube and Vimeo on the Nvaj channel. So manifest, and you can watch it over and over again later on today.
Well, maybe there's something we do have time to talk about, and that is that Phil thinks that I use an overwhelming number of classes. Phil, I'm not going to disagree with you. I do. But each class is there for a reason. Now, some classes are there because I imported information from a consultant or from a, if we have a look at some of these classes, these ones here, I imported information from a window manufacturer and I got some of these things. Or these APL classes, I imported window joinery and I ended up with those ones. They're a bit of a pain and I don't like them so much. But one thing I do with classes is I set up filters. So when I'm detailing, because I do details like this, and I like to have my details on, or my objects on specific classes for detailing. So what I tend to do in this case, where I'm creating details, I've set up a class filter, and I've called it details, and it just shows me the classes I need for detailing. So when I'm detailing it, it looks to me like I've only got a half a dozen or a dozen classes in my file. When I'm dealing with walls, I've got a few more, but I've actually filtered them so that I don't have to see things that I'm not worried about. And if I'm doing structural work, there's a lot more because I've got walls and I've got beams, and that's a way of filtering the huge number of classes that I'm using to make it manageable. And these layering class filters, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but anyone who's a subscriber, let's go back to my website. I think I posted a layering class filters the other day.
Cool.
Layer and class. Did I put it here?
Classes and layers?
No, I thought I called it layering
No.
class filters. Maybe I'll put it on my other website. But I'm sure I made one. Always on my posts. What did I say? Layering class filtering. What did I say? I had a movie, watch now. Oh yeah, there it is. Layering class filtering. Oh yeah, layering. Oh, you were right, Barbara. It was layering classes. So it was all about layering class standards. So I put these two things on how to create layers and class filters, because I use them a lot and I think they're really cool. But I don't use the name of the class to filter it. So details, if I edit that, I actually included a tag called details so that I can add any class of any name just by adding a tag to it. So it works really well. So details just shows me all my details. Structural shows me all my structural. Walls shows me all my walls. So you're right, Phil, there's too many there, but they're all there for a reason. And I prefer to use classes other than layers most often, where it's to do with the graphic style, visibility. If it's to keep everything together, that's a layer. What else we got here? Yeah, can use the visibility to sort. Like, oh, you can use the visibility tool with layers. I got so few layers I don't bother, but you can certainly use it with layers. Let's go to one of these ones, and my visibility tool, use that one with layers. I've used very few layers, so I would have to find layer 2 wherever it is. I don't know where layer 2 is, but because most of my information is on classes, but you can do that. Question on saved views. Is there a way to transfer? No, we've done that one. From the floating palette, you want to edit your saved views from the floating palette? Is a trick. Who asked that? Dennis. Dennis, if you hold your finger on the option of the Alt key and double click on your floating palette, you can edit it. Those of you that have got, I don't know if any of you guys do this, where you have drawing tools. Where's my drawing tools gone? I can't see my tools. I've got another palette floating around on my screen. I've got 2 screens. I've got it floating somewhere. I don't know where it's gone. You can actually go here. Here we are. So these are all my little tools. And if you hold down the Option key and double click, it opens up the script, and you can make changes to it. So that shows you the script for that tool. Place linear weatherboard. I use these for drawing details. It just speeds me up a lot because things are assigned to classes, and it makes it really handy for me. Viewport referencing. I don't use viewport referencing to build a model terrain, a digital terrain model or a site model. I build it in this file. Unless you've got someone else doing it somewhere else, do it in the file that you're working in. Otherwise, site modification becomes so difficult. Sure, I know you can put site modifiers in the other file, but I mean, if I wanted to have a site model that related to the second floor of my building, it's much easier for me to go to the second floor, add the site modifier in here, and know how I wanted that relative to this floor of the building. And then that would modify my site. That, to me, would be the easy way to do it. Well, that's about it. So, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Hey, don't forget,
thank you for the amazing.
If you want to see what I've done here, become a subscriber. There are loads of movies. Don't ask me how many, I haven't counted. But I've made it real easy to search, real easy to find stuff. And so, yeah, and every month I add a little bit to it.
That's amazing. Thank you for the many tips and tricks. Always grateful.
Thank you for having me, Barbara.
Yeah, let me switch back to my screen just quickly. So you should be able to see it.
You can see your screen now.
Fantastic.
Thank you for attending.
I just wanted to thank everybody for attending today. Remind everybody that we have all the Vectorworks product line at novage.com, among other things. And if you missed something, or if you want to watch this webinar again, you can do so on YouTube and Vimeo on the Novage YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day. And thank you very much, Jonathan. Have a wonderful weekend riding your Vespa.
Oh, yes, I'm really looking forward to it. If anyone wants to know, I'm going down something called the Forgotten Highway. So it should be great fun. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Barbara.
Bye-bye, Jonathan. Bye-bye.